السابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار والذين اتبعوهم بإحسان.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وبارك على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, we have reached hadith number 15 from this collection of hadith that we wish to go through, inshallah ta'ala, collected by Sheikh Rabee with his explanation, Hafidahullah. And he mentioned the following hadith: عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إن أول الناس يقضى يوم القيامة عليه رجل استشهد فأتي به فعرفها قال فما عملت فيها؟ قال قتلت فيك حتى استشهدت. قال كذبت ولكنك قاتلت ليقال جريء. فقد قيل فأمر به ثم أمر به فسحب على وجهه حتى ألقي في النار. ورجل تعلم العلم وعلمه وقرأ القرآن فأتي به فعرفه نعمه فعرفها. قال فما عملت فيها؟ قال تعلمت العلم وعلمته وقرأت فيك القرآن. قال كذبت ولكنك تعلمت العلم يقال عالم وقرأت القرآن ليقال هو قارئ. فقد قيل ثم أمر به فسحب على وجهه حتى ألقي في النار. ووجلا وسع الله عليه وأعطاه من أصناف المال كله. أعطاه من أصناف المال كله. فأتي به فعرفه نعمه فعرفها. قال فما عملت فيها؟ قال ما تركت من سبيل تحب أن ينفق فيها إلا أنفقت فيها لك. قال كذبت ولكنك فعلت ليقال هو جواد. فقد قيل ثم عمل به فسحب على وجهه حتى ألقي في النار. So this hadith here, barakallahu fikum, is one of the longer hadith of this collection in particular, and it's narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, whereas he mentioned that I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam say that indeed from the first of the people that are brought before Allah for judgment is a man that is or has been killed in the battle. And so he's brought forth and he's presented with his blessings and he acknowledges them. Thus it is said to him and is asked to him, and what did you do with them? He says that I fought for your sake to the extent that I was martyred, I was killed. And it said to him, you have lied. However, you fought so it could be said that you are jari, that you are a courageous individual. And indeed it was said. And so the command came that he be dragged upon his face and thrown within the hellfire. And then there was a man that studied the ilm, the ilm al-shari, the ilm al-deen, and taught it. And he read from the Quran, he recited from the Quran. And thus he brought forth and presented with his blessings, and he acknowledged those blessings. And they said and asked to him, what did you do with them, with these blessings? And he said that I learned and I studied the knowledge and taught it, and I read for your sake in the book of Allah, the Quran. And thus it said to him, you have lied, kadhabt. However, you studied this knowledge so that it can be said that you're an alim, that you're a person of knowledge. And that you read from the Quran so that it can be said that you are a qari, you're a reciter. And the deal was said. And so the command came that he be dragged upon his face and thrown within the fire. And thus as well, you have the man that Allah Ta'ala gave him from the vast amounts and every different form of wealth. And his blessings are presented to him. And he acknowledges them. And they said to him, what did you do with them, with these blessings? And he responds that I did not leave any form of spending which you love, except that I spent my wealth in that manner. And it is mentioned, you've lied. However, you did so, you spent that wealth, so it can be said that you are jawad. So it can be said that you are an individual that is generous. And indeed it was said, and so the command came that he be dragged upon his face and thrown within the fire. Before we begin with this hadith, barakallahu feekum, the narration mentions here begins with an Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Now, this seerah, this particular wording, or these alfaz, with these wordings are very important, and they are vital when it comes to the narration of ahadith. And so, in respect of the fact that this is narrated by a sahabi, and of course then this is accepted anyway due to the fact that it's a sahabi. However, any of the tabaqat or any of those levels or any of the narrators outside of that, then we look at what they say when it comes to the narrations. What they say when they narrate. And so the reason why I mentioned this here, because this word in here where it says sami'tu, when Abu Hurairah mentions sami'tu, outside of that, when they have this word of sami'tu, this is the strongest way where a person can narrate. Now, this is the best way a person can narrate the narration, sami'tu. Meaning I heard. Why do you think this is the strongest way to narrate that narration? We say sami'tu.
Reduces the chain. It reduces the chain just as that person also.
It reduces the chain? How? How does it reduce the chain?
From Abu Hurairah and then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Okay, so what would be the difference if he said hadathana, for example, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
It reached us.
Hadathana, meaning that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam narrated to us. Or hadathana fulan, hadathana Abi Hurairah, مثلا. Why was sami'tu stronger than hadathana, for example? Because the chain is still the chain.
No.
Sah? But sami'tu is stronger. But what about idea? Why would you say sami'tu then hadathana? In that order, or strength. You know what I did? Due to the fact that sami'tu, it absolutely negates any form of misunderstanding that the person did not hear it directly. If you say sami'tu, then it means you heard it directly. I heard. Now I heard. If you have hadathana now, which is the one level below, hadathana means it was narrated to us. So you can even from the translation, you can understand how, whilst it can be understood that it's narrated, it's not something that a person can say, it's not the same conviction as I heard. You say, I heard, this is what you heard, unequivocally. It's narrated to us, then it's something which is lesser so. Likewise as well, after that is akhbarana. We were informed. Lesser than that, then you have an, on the authority of. Because if you say on the authority of, it doesn't mean that you actually heard it. Or there's nothing, in your statement, you have not said that it's been narrated to us even. You just say it's on the authority of. Now, less than that, qala, so and so said. Now, you don't even say that it's on authority or from, you're not giving any indication that you heard it. With an, on authority of, you give the indication that you heard it, but you don't say that directly. You haven't stated that directly. Even less than that, so you got qal, what's even less than that? Anyone know? Would be even less than qal, that he said. So you have, for example, you have sami'tu, I heard, absolutely, you've heard it. Hadathana, it was narrated to us. Akhbarana, it was informed, we were informed. You say after that, an authority of qal, he said. What do you think from the last one as well? I think the weakest form of memory. Qil. It was said. So you're not even mentioning who said it now. So that's even lesser so. So just for those that if you're reading a narration and you see the asanid and it mentions, for example, hadathana, or it mentions sami'tu, then you know this is as direct as possible as the person, the narrator saying that I've heard it. As direct as possible. Now, as for this narration here, barakallahu feekum, then the takhrij of this narration is that it's found in Sahih Muslim, Muslim Imam Ahmad, and the Sunan of An-Nasa'i. Sahih Muslim, Muslim Imam Ahmad, and the Sunan of An-Nasa'i. And as for the Rabee of the Hadith, the narrator, then this is Abi Huraira. He is Abu Huraira, and we mentioned his tarjama. We mentioned the biography of him previously in Hadith number 11. So we mentioned his biography previously. As for the direct, specific wordings that we found in this narration, the first is yukhda alayh. Yukhda alayh. بمعنى يحاكم or يحاسب, i.e. the person is judged or is brought to account. So the yukhda alayh is referring to the muhasab, i.e. the person being brought to account yawm al-qiyamah. The person being questioned about their actions yawm al-qiyamah. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. The next word is ustushhida إن نال شهادة فيما يبدو للناس أنه قتل في سبيل الله. So when we say that a person استشهد, then it's the one that نال شهادة, attained يعني شهادة, يعني the martyrdom. Now the Sheikh here mentions within that as well فيما يبدو للناس. نعم فيما يبدو للناس, يعني that which is apparent to the people. Why? Because as Ahlus-Sunnah, we do not say يعني قطعيا فلان يعني شهيد مثلا. We don't say absolutely that so-and-so is a martyr. We do not say absolutely so-and-so is in Jannah. Or we do not say absolutely so-and-so is in Jahannam. This is not from the alfaz and how Ahlus-Sunnah refer to any individual. Why? Because this is something from the unseen. And we do not know the reality of a person's actions, nor do we know the reality of an individual's final abode. The only time we can affirm a person being within Jannah or a person being within the fire is if it is found directly within the nusus. If it's found within the text, it's mentioned directly within the text. So a person, for example, doesn't have tawakkuf when it comes to the Ashma Mubashirin bi Jannah. The 10 that I mentioned that are in Jannah from the companions. So, now, the person's not going to say, I don't know, or we can't affirm it, or we can't affirm or deny. Because the Messenger of Allah said this. So no doubt it's haqq. Likewise, the affair of Abu Lahab. A person's not going to now say that we're not going to affirm or deny the affair of Abu Lahab. Why? Because we don't know if he's in Jannah or not, or whatever else. Because Allah has informed us of that, and informed us of his torment and punishment. Likewise, when it comes to the martyr, then we cannot say that the Fulan is a martyr. Then the Fulan, he is from the Shuhada, like in Qat'iyan, in the absolute sense. Why? Because we don't know if the person's death is specifically fi sabilillah, for the sake of Allah. We can only say from that what is apparent. And no doubt if we see a person die in that state, die in a manner of martyrdom, then of course we make dua that is their reality. But it's not something that we state as an absolute statement. Inshallah, it will become clear, we'll mention further. Allah Ta'ala. Now, thereafter, we have the word jari. And this word jari is a shuja'. Essentially, it is referring to courage. The person is courageous. And no doubt, this sifa of courage is one which is mahmud. It's mahmud, it's a praiseworthy description to have, and a praiseworthy characteristic to have. And so, no doubt, this is why it will be seen as something where a person is seeking this. And why a person will seek this? He seeks this, why? Because he wants to be seen as a courageous individual. Because he's praiseworthy. No one wants to be known as the opposite of that, Jabban. No one wants to be known as the opposite of that, the one that is cowardly. Because no doubt that's a characteristic which is lowly. And so an individual seeks in relation to that a characteristic which is lofty and praiseworthy. But in this narration here, they saw this in the eyes of the people. And thereafter it mentions that صُحِبَ جُرَّ مَبْتُوحًا عَلَى بَطْنِهِ وَوَجْهِهِ بِعُنْفٍ وَالشِّدَّةِ إِهَانَةً لَهُ. And so, what is mentioned in Suhib, the person is dragged, and the person will be dragged and pulled upon his front, so upon his face and his stomach, and is pulled in a manner which is a violent manner, a severe violent manner. And the reason why it occurs like this, is because it is ihana. It's an action of humiliation, or it's an action that occurs as a humiliation for them. So the fact that they're thrown within the fire in such a way is a humiliation for them. And so this is why it occurs like this. Wallahu a'lam. Thereafter it mentions ulqiya fi nar, or ulqiya. The person is thrown within the fire. وأصناف المال, the different forms of mal, different types of wealth. So of course, sometimes when we think of wealth, we just think of one type, which is just money. Money. However, when it comes to wealth can be of many different types. Assets. And even when we refer to, when we look at wealth in terms of zakat, zakat is not just paid when it comes to money, your cash or gold. Rather, it can be upon your money, it can be upon your cattle, it can be upon your urud al-tijara, the assets that you have that you trade with. It could be upon gold, silver, mentioned livestock already, crops. All of these things are regarded as being from your wealth. And so this individual, they mentioned the asnaf of the individual's wealth, the different forms of a person's wealth, that he had something from maybe each and every one of these. And so what did he do with those? And he mentioned that he paid and he spent from this wealth, and he used this wealth fi sabilillah. However, as we mentioned, or as is mentioned in the narration, he did so it can be said that he is jawad. It can be said that he is an individual that is generous. And so he did it for the recognition of the people. Now, and thereafter we have the word that you mentioned, jawad, referring to the one that is kareem, the one that is generous. As for the general meaning of this hadith, then Sheikh Rabee mentions, إِنَّ فِي الْمَصِيرِ هَؤُلَاءِ ثَلَاثَ أَشْقِيَاءَ لَعِبْرَةٌ وَذِكْرَ لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ أو ألقى السمع وهو شهيد. And so the abode and the final reckoning of these three individuals, these three wretched individuals, is a means of a lesson and a reminder for the one that possesses the heart, and the one who hears it, who comes across this narration, and thus has to bear witness by way of it. And this is the relation in relation to these three individuals. Now, what occurred to these individuals? Why? The Sheikh he mentions, and this is jihad fi sabilillah after the a'mal. Is jihad fi sabilillah not from the best of action? As you mentioned, we read in the hadith last week. Where the Messenger of Allah was asked by Ibn Mas'ud about the best actions. And he mentions to him, I always mentioned to Ibn Mas'ud was that the actions, or from his actions, is jihad fi sabilillah. So then the question is, of course, if a person embarks on this action, why is he abode in the fire? Why does he have such a humiliation in terms of his punishment? That's one. Thereafter, the Sheikh he also mentions that the one that is the mujahid, is he not in relation to the darajat as-sama'? Is he not found in of 100 levels, or raised of 100 levels within the sama'? And basically, we understand that the shuhada wal mujahidun, they possess virtue. Likewise, the alim, they possess virtue. So Allah Ta'ala mentions, يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا عِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا عِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. And so Allah Ta'ala mentions that Allah Ta'ala raises those who believe from amongst you, and those that are given knowledge, raise them in level. And so the one that's the mujahid, he has fadl. The one that's the alim, the talib ilm, muta'allim, has fadl, has virtue. Likewise, the one the mutasaddiq, the one that has ihsan when it comes to his wealth, has virtue. And so the question is after that, what is it that caused them, as we mentioned, to face this particular punishment in the fire? Not only the punishment, but the humiliation along with it. What is it that caused them to face that? وَلَقَدْ بَيَّنَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ سَبَبْ مُسِيرُهُ هَذَا. What was the sabab, what was the reason for that entry of the fire? And the reason for that was أَنَّهُمْ لَمْ يُخْلِصُوا لِلَّهِ فِي هَذِهِ الْأَعْمَالِ. That they were individuals that were not in the mukhlis. They were individuals that were not sincere in their ibadah. Those actions that they performed were not sincere for the sake of Allah. These actions are الأعمال التي تبدو للناس أنها عظيمة. So what was apparent to the people that these actions were azima, these were great actions. These were actions of magnitude. However, in reality, they were devoid of ikhlas. وَلَمْ يُرِيدُوا بِهَا وَجْهَ اللَّهِ. And they did not intend and they did not want by way of their actions the face of Allah. They weren't seeking the face of Allah by way of their actions. بل كانت مقاصدهم سيئة وأغراضهم فاسدة وهو حب الثناء من الناس والمدح وإطراء. And rather, their maqasid, their intent, and what they embarked upon for their actions was not of good. Rather, it was evil, that what they intended. What they intended by way of that was to fulfill the love of the praise of the people. The love of the praise of the people. I made that an affair that was closer to them. And so, that mujahid did not intend, لم يرد ذلك مجاهد وجه الله ولا إعلاء كلمة الله. So that mujahid, that individual that strove and fought, he didn't seek that by way of his fight in the face of Allah. His intent when he went out to fight was not an intent that I want to seek the face of my Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the intent of jihad is one where we seek to make the kalimatullah, the kalimatul tawheed, al-a'la, in the most high, or abras, the thing that is the most apparent when it comes to jihad. That's the intent of the mujahid. If the mujahid is salih fi niyati, yani the mujahid has a true intent, has a correct intent, then with that he will intend seeking the face of his Lord, and intend that tawheed is the most high in that reality. However, this was not his intent, this individual. Rather, his intent was one where now he wanted to fight for his own self. His intent was one which was selfish, and he wanted himself to be raised by way of that. So as we mentioned, jihad is in order to raise the kalimatullah. That's your intent. His intent was to raise himself as an individual. To raise himself as an individual. It wasn't in terms of raising the deen of Islam in totality. It was to raise him as an individual. And for him to be seen, to possess this affair of Bakula, to possess this affair of being that individual that is raised above most, the champion of the people, the most courageous amongst the people. And Sheikh Rabee mentions an important point here, where he states, وَقَدْ حَصَلَ ذَلِكَ فَكَانَ جَزَاؤُهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا. So Sheikh, he mentions, he attained it. What he wanted, he attained it. And his reward for that, if you like, was within the dunya. So he wanted the praise of the people. He wanted the praise of the people. He wanted the recognition of the people. He wanted to be seen amongst the people to be this courageous individual. And as the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned in the narration, وَقَدْ قِيلٍ, and indeed it was said. So you intended for it to be, you intended for the people to say you are jarib. You're the one that has shuja'. You're the one that has this affair of courage. وَقَدْ قِيلٍ, and it was said. So it wasn't just a case that you intended it, but you intended it and you attained it. But you intended from this affair something from the dunya, and so you attained it within the dunya. Now, أما في الآخرة, as for in the akhirah, فكان جزاؤه أن يفضح. And so, as for in the akhirah, then his jaza, the recompense that he faced, is that he faced that affair of humiliation. And he was exposed and flung within the fire. And this exposure, whatever a person intends, whether it be khayr, whatever a person intends, whether it be sin, whether it's a good intent or it's a bad intent, it will become exposed. And so if the person has an evil intent, he has the intent of the praise of the people, then essentially it's as if he has traded whatever reward he would attain within the akhirah to attain that reward in the dunya, and the recognition of the people in the dunya. But if he trades it, and he may attain that thing in the dunya. In this case, he attained the praise of the people. He attained the status of being raised amongst the people in the dunya. However, due to the fact that he has traded whatever reward he sought in the akhirah, what he will attain in the akhirah is an affair of humiliation. So this is the central point of this narration in relation to every single one of these three individuals, that they all wanted to attain this recognition in the dunya due to their riyā, due to their showing off, due to their shirk al-asghar. So they want to attain the recognition of the people, and due to that, they received punishment in the akhirah. And then Sheikh Rabee goes and mentioned the affair of the alim. This one that was the alim. فلم يطلب العلم لله يتفقه في دينه ويعلم ما يحبه لا يجب لله ولكتاب وللرسول وللناس نعم في الدين. So this individual did not study the knowledge so that he could increase himself in fiqh, increase himself in understanding of the deen, increase himself in understanding of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so he could increase and understand what was the obligation in relation to Allah, in relation to the book, in relation to the messenger, in relation to the people, so that he could perform those obligations. That was not the reason why he studied. ولم يعلم الناس لوجه الله لوجه الله يرجو ثواب نشر العلم والدعوة إلى الله. And likewise he did not study or did not teach the people rather for the sake of Allah, seeking the face of Allah, hoping for the reward and the spread of the knowledge whilst calling to Allah. Rather, he did so it can be said, Fulan is an alim. So is an alim. Fulan is alamat al-zaman. This person is the alama of our time. Or hafiz of this waqt, this particular era. He's the hafiz of our time. Or is the qari of ummah. He's the reciter for this ummah. And so, likewise, you found that this individual is humiliated and that he's exposed, and they think that covered him is destroyed. Whatever covered him destroyed him. Or whatever covered him is become destroyed and is exposed on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And his evil intent has become known, and thus this is what caused him to be thrown within the fire. And then finally, we have the mention of the Sahib al-Mal, the individual that has wealth. فلم يشكر الله الذي أسبق عليه تلك النعم ولم يكن من الذين قال فيهم والذين في أموالهم حق معلوم للسائل والمحروم. And so, as for this person with their wealth, then the Sheikh, he mentioned this individual was not grateful with that wealth and the spending of that wealth. And he was not from those that Allah Ta'ala mentions, and they, in relation to their wealth, give it its due rights for the ones that are in need and ask, and the impoverished. I hear the Sheikh, they mentions Barakallahu Feekum. Here's a question. Why does he mention that this individual was not shakir? This individual was not grateful with his wealth. Why? Why did it mention that this individual was not grateful with his wealth? And this third individual.
Grateful to Allah.
He wasn't grateful to Allah, no doubt. Why then?
He didn't spend it for the sake of Allah.
He didn't spend it for the sake of Allah, that's one thing. But what did he spend it in them? Why did he spend it? Riya'an. So essentially he spent it in ma'asi. He spent his wealth with ma'asi. He spent his wealth with disobedience. From the alamat of a servant being shakir, from the signs of a person being grateful with whatever blessing he has, is that he uses those blessings li ta'alillah. He uses those blessings to be an individual that is obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if now this individual has all this wealth, and then he uses that wealth for disobedience, no doubt shirk is from the worst of disobedience. Shirk al-asghar in this case, but it's still from the worst of disobedience. So he no doubt, it cannot be said that he's shakir, because he's used that wealth for disobedience. He used that wealth for recognition. Whilst he could have used that wealth to spend in the way of Allah, and thus then it could be said that he's shakir. He's an individual that's grateful. Rather, he's used that wealth in disobedience. And so it cannot now be said that he's grateful. Rather, it can be said that he's ungrateful. And so thus, is mentioned. He didn't come to him, or he was not of the understanding that this wealth has been given to him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so he must look to how he uses it. فلذلك فهو لا يريد بما ينفق وجه الله ولا يعرف طريقا إلى الإخلاص لوجه الله، إنما يريد أن يتغنى الناس بمجده ويلهج الشعراء بمدحه، وأن يثير في الناس أخبار جوده وسخائه، فكان له ذلك ونال ما قصده في الحياة الدنيا. And so, rather than being a person that is grateful with his wealth, he intended that he spent his wealth upon the people, and he be seen amongst the people as being this individual that is generous, and it becomes widespread, and this akhbar of this individual becomes widespread, and it's known that so and so is a generous person. And he wanted this recognition. He wanted to know how far it can spread. This affair of his wealth, but not only his wealth, how he spends it, how he's generous with the people. And so what he intended, he attained in his dunya, as we mentioned, with his other two individuals. They intended the recognition, and they attained the recognition of the people. As for the akhirah, then he did not intend for the akhirah. He did not intend for khayr al-akhirah and reward al-akhirah. And so, in relation to him, he faces that same torment and humiliation. And so, now, as I mentioned, as for his reward, or as for the recompense in the akhirah, then his jaza is one which is adil, one which is just. And thereafter the malaika, who do not disobey Allah, they will come and drag him upon his face and throw him in the fire. The malaika, when Allah Ta'ala commands them in a fair, they do it. They obey. And then they commanded in relation to this individual to drag him upon his face and throw him in the fire. And so within this narration, the ibrah and the lesson that can be taken and what was to be contemplated upon is that those that are regarded to be from the mujahideen or the ulama, or those that spend from their wealth, upon them is to have ikhlas lillah, sincerity in what they're doing, and that they are aware of the promise of Allah Ta'ala, and for the one that is mukhlis, the one that does the action lillah, and that they want to be saved from the punishment of Allah Ta'ala that will descend upon those that show off, and those are the munafiqeen, those that make izhar of any righteous actions, rifad of Islam and righteous actions. And that which is batin is opposite to them. And so this is the recompense of the one that falls into, can be the recompense of the one that falls into riyah. One other point, last point I want to mention as well, was mentioned by Imam Sheikh As-Sa'di, rahimahullah, where he mentioned the affair of riyah itself, and why this is shirk, and why this is the shirk asghar, and why it's so evil. And he mentioned that within the action of riyah is ta'zeem, is glorification of the makhluk, in the ghayrillah. So within that action of, for example, that's the ibarah mentioned by Sheikh Sa'd, is ta'zeem ghayrillah. You glorify another than Allah. How does that occur? So for example, if a person is praying and beautifying his prayer because he knows that another individual is watching him, that prayer should only be beautified for Allah Ta'ala. That prayer, the person seeking to pray in the best way possible, should be lillah. So now, whenever, if they're doing it because they know Fulan is watching, then they have raised and they made ta'adeen, they've glorified and raised an individual above any station that he's deserving of. And so this, no doubt, because he's raised him and he's played and he's dhulm essentially, because he's placed something outside of his correct place. But because he's raised a person above their correct station, then as with any form of shirk asghar, it could lead to akbar. It could lead to the major shirk. Because if now the person has fallen into ta'zeem al-ghayrillah, and he's glorified over Allah, and raised a person outside of that which is correct. Why? Because that ibadah should be only for Allah. That beautification should only be for Allah. But he's done it for due to the eyes of another individual, the sight of another individual. They've done it for that another individual. They've done it for the praise, my friend. Now, then, if they traverse upon that particular path, and they've raised them above their station, this could ultimately lead them not only just doing the ibadah so that they can be seen by the person, but then directing that ibadah to them specifically. And then thus this becomes shirk akbar. Where not only are they doing it for them previously, for their praise and their recognition, but they direct it towards them after that. And this is no doubt is how shirk asghar can lead to the akbar. Allah Ta'ala knows best. فبارك الله فيكم وجزاكم الله خير. نكتفي بهذا القدر. الله يحفظكم. وصلى الله وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.